Hello, excuse my appearance. Before I was at Trinity College, people tied to Trinity College and the houses next to it had collusions with the houses next to Central Connecticut State University. Trinity's in Hartford, Connecticut. Central Connecticut State University is in New Britain, Connecticut. Who had, I noted, recorded timed collusion slash S. Excuse me, they're pretending others recorded too with the news. Channel 3 News, WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with me with themselves and me with others, and about the World Trade Center attack. And while I caught them forcing a child abuser leader of kids. And while people involved with the state corrections offices, the state judicial branch offices, and all ages and natures of campuses, names next to them. Like next to Harvard Hospital, which hospitals are also campuses, no, a bunch of people with that campus have roles with military too, foreign and domestic, involved with a Ray Colello and a Joe DeMoro, involve all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, where they put fake transcripts with like a Leahy family, Lombardo, people putting fake things in the databases at Harvard Hospital with the security there too, and their roles with the prisons, with names at the prisons, running the prisons, people there are proofs that some of the patients or some of the forced patients and criminals are undercover police. They have recorded increasingly all along Route 3 and its conjunctions, like where there used to be an Omni place. That place, through time, through different ownerships of it, is involved with the state corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices, with people who brought up and recorded Sammy Bull involvements. Also with mayors from Wethersfield increasingly tied to body dumping spots. Before that, too. And since. They keep getting brought up, too. All kinds of things were brought up intercities. They recorded themselves pretending not to understand people when they mentioned things that they brought up intercities. They leaked things. So, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has his co-defendants, their family members, also involved with next to Fox Connecticut News and at Fox Connecticut News, and next to WTNH and at WTNH, and and where I mean, you know, next to WFSB rather. Next to WTNH is the FBI, though. But that's other ways. They have rules of wire and mail crimes, criminally foreign influence, readings of statutes and of precedents on a mass scale to give benefit of the doubt to people based on their title. In other words, that's exploited on a mass scale by the breaching method that shows them how to speak. You guys are preventing mandated law by even making me bring this up. You guys are leaking it with Diddy. Diddy has roles at Trinity College with people from Hartford Hospital involved with it, as one's named Violet too. Intercities with a police chief Cintron, his family members with a modern pastry and a Mazzucato bakery involved with police refusing to identify themselves, and with town lines, people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with this Jamiano family involved with sequence shifts with them. People involved with Washington, D.C. and the World Trade Center years before it had roles of the World Trade Center attack, and shortly before it, with and as their collusion with names, with uses of names at the World Trade Center, next to it, including a court next to it. All sides of that case and the court itself involved with a sequence shift, which these are also people with their extended family members involved with wire crimes on my street. And Wethersfield police faked conversations with me as a kid, now as an adult. These are not legitimate roles with the Eastern States Narcotics Drug Task Force, with the various overt criminal enterprises, plural themed, and the what is it called? Private ones, originally instilled with terrorists too. You guys have time collusions with interstates, with the news, and with the foreign bodies, but it's not just Saudi Arabia and America used remotely and all the other, the coalition, all that. Through the wars, their collusion with Connecticut military, intermilitary. Increasingly, people tied to a Paul Kelly are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and people on Griswold Street and conjunctions to that, like my street, planting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me roles, and with people from other areas, like this Robert Rodriguez. People that have roles of home break-ins years ago have roles with Robert Rodriguez. I never saw him in my area. but 2 times. And he confirmed on Facebook what he said to me there. And I didn't respond to him because I knew they were trying to make it look like I had a fake tie, nature tie to him. He has roles with all kinds of investigators, people involved with body dumping spots, the state judicial branch, corrections officers, and interbranch forging names and switching names. Their kids, they had time roles with a principal upskirt nature, involved with way worse, with digital crimes, and more with the security with campuses through time, and nurses and their family members, all kinds of sick uses of databases. These are people offensively pretending to be against what they are recorded collusions with. They have some real nerve, in other words. They have had collusion since founding. When did the breaching method stop having to do with why there were overt criminal enterprises, private criminal enterprises, and slavery roles, torture roles, extortion roles, non-distinctly, so northern colonies and southern colonies, and no one even counted that because distinctly the roles they didn't counter either because it non-distinctly the breaching method was measuring and maintaining identities of roles that were incapable of defending themselves and affording how nature was demonstrated, how non-distinctly. Everyone was hurt by the same breaching method, northern colonies and southern colonies, how that was and is increasing value to us. They still won't let us value that, how we have a breaching method that tactically denatured the suburbs before America's founders were born, how they have a breaching method that tactically denatured the education of people trying to pretend that's debatable. You guys have our founders' communications in place. Our pace. Please get in the Britain Superior Court has a bunch of people with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and James Comey, and reported, and his James Comey also involved with his daughter with the Sean Puffy Combs case, with names with all sides of criminal and civil cases in the courts as collusions with a whole bunch of different countries and the intelligence tied to them. A bunch of people with East Hartford locations tied to a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members. And these are people on my street from other areas involved with the house and the extended family members named Phil Colello and also people with the name Scalora involved with World Trade Center attack predicate acts. And with these Mendes police, also with ones named DeMoro, involved with World Trade Center attacks, and with identity thefts and frauds acting next to campuses so people can film illusions with the names next to the campuses. I never saw Joe DeMoro next to a campus. In other words, I just saw Joe DeMoro one time real quick on the 5th grade class and one time real quick on 7th or 8th grade class. Never saw Heather Hansen at middle school. Increasingly, her educators and herself was forced to roles with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced years apart. They have a bunch of people next to Harvard Hospital, like with DeMoro's market and where it is now, involved with sexual and medical crimes with kids, medicines crimes on a mass scale with the courts and their family members and prosecutors and their family members, involved with predicate acts in my street with the same house /S. Them lying about the motivations. They brought this up. There's sequence shifting. These are named collusions with sequence shifts inside the 9th Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers from inside the court right before the attack. And names on all sides of that case attached to forced collusions I don't even know about with Detective Samuda and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of ways with predicate acts on my street and area, home break-ins involved with them. These are and wire crime acts and methods with the Wethersfield police chiefs retired and their intimate ties involved with the same house, reportedly and demonstrably. /S, the same one. They brought up the name Colello. They didn't give the whole name over the phone, the Wethersfield police. And Wethersfield police attached me to fake conversations with themselves and being at the Wethersfield police station as a kid. Then as an adult, I went there, but I didn't have one word of conversation, not even one word with any officer there. And one of the Mendes police also involved with the ones with the Sammy the Bull and the Joe DeMoro and the Kerr. There's also more than one Jerry Kerr and a mic curtain. But and I don't know their mother's name. But there's an officer, Jerry Miller, who has been planting evidences on all sides of my house with other officers I don't even know what they look like. Officer Poisian has digital crimes with some sexual and medical offenders of kids. And one of my educators repeated sexual things and about how she's Jewish as a Jewish woman. And when I was a sophomore in her class, I did not respond. They also arrested me when I was in that class to cover up live regressions and what I recorded them doing before that and after that, with the people tied to now more than one proven child abuse leader of kids, and roles with the names that were involved with that, and then as an adults involved with the other ones. And they have more then and now involved. The news, too, they're planting evidences at all natures of crime scenes. And this won't stop until you get people to follow mandated law. Get them on paper into branch. Have them say sorry to Judge Napolitano for planting fake exceptions of knowingly, consciously, hiding and sensing with what they know was criminally foreign impulse they had involvements with before that. Joe DeMoro, a whole bunch of people tied to the Westfield Community Center have roles of identity theft, fraud, slanders, and their extended family members as intelligence agencies who had time collusions with the World Trade Center attack, including as our side, including as some of the victims on our side, and their family members. They had collusions to other natures of organized crimes and organized crime acts and methods they had roles with. And pretending things are debatable or they don't understand people while their collusions preventing us short words. Get me off fake conversations with WFSB and about the World Trade Center attack. They have collusions with the Saudi attackers that the Saudi attackers in America had collusions with that they don't understand. But when I start explaining to them, they start understanding before you guys. And these are the ones that have been with the rackets, with the judicial and corrections offices, and all sides of cases, and the court's names, the lawyers, etc., the source of their family members, natures of conjunction, everyone, the crime scenes, all that was exploited to measure and maintain self-value rules with sequence shifts, civil self-value rules with relative delusions, with defenses of descriptions of American history, criminally foreign impulse, tactical terror than our founders declassified to have communicated for themselves. They declassified for us to understand how and why. Not one person had free speech, including themselves, and everyone had to pretend other to an extent, otherwise be sentenced. And that was adapted to, including if it was a body of people as a majority, including if it was everyone together. We are in a semi-ancient trap. Any grouping of countries that tries to counter with this cause it keeps while entertaining roles, blaming, having blamed other things, others themselves, until that became and stays more and more real. As it was proven, there are proofs it's more probable and practical to theorize, let alone to convict, before modern religion's messengers were born. Already, the sciences, their ancient preservation, have become from off those locations, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to defend themselves and to counter what caused that improperly, not knowing how to do it properly or who or what was behind it. And they made them counter other people wrongly and then defend that. And then they made those other people counter that rightly and then defend that. But everyone is wrongly blaming things that nature was demonstrating. In other words, it was a breaching method involved. But everyone was forcing, tricking, hurting, and persuading that not to be true because they don't know what to do. And more roles with that could no longer afford to be discerned, let alone to protract short words proper by the lessons that nature projects to us, where how it shares. It is the identity the sciences share. It is the identity that totally different species bodies of individual bodies with all group differences have generating to us, have demonstrating to us that its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that is what was and is in generating species bodies of individual bodies with all group differences, again, generated by its identity. To the extent we could discern, it comes with its complete identity relationship to itself. And the only increasing value of that here, or it is forced from here, as forced space nature transfer, as a part with where and how it shows us it is functional, being hyper invisible, but still discernible distinctly from how it is the invisible, but still discernible. For example, such as the parts of speech, of English grammar, of other languages. Again, I went over it. That's why and how it's the body of the hyper invisible but still discernible that is distinct from the invisible but still discernible, that which we can discern. Where and how we can discern why and how we need to appreciate more than one name for verbs, like a gerund, like a present participle, past participle, like a predicate as a main verb. Now, the identity of the law of valuing a predicate. Note the identity of the law of valuing a predicate act. And where this is about the invisible / hyper invisible, but still discernible. This is about criminal insidiousness / hyper criminal insidiousness. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a police boy. I'm not a criminal. I recorded the courts, the family members, the state judicial branches offices, the state corrections offices, and conjunctions to it and to that, like Route 3, is increasingly involved with the World Trade Center attack through interstates. And forgiveness is because this is the same outcome / S maintained strictly distinctly, but strictly non-distinctly at countries A through Z. And where and how strictly non-distinctly is left out, even though the breaching method knows and nature is demonstrating it, how strictly non-distinctly a human fact, human nature breaching method has everyone's self-valued roles with itself at countries A through Z. Right where no one wants those self-valued roles. And or they have roles blaming other things other than themselves, right where nature is in demonstration / S of that. So Connecticut Interbranch refused to identify. A bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court have some Sammy the Bull and John Gotti threats. I'm my neighbor and I'm me. But they're also fake, like, oh, he said, she said, and then it makes you look like you got fake ties, fake nature ties to them. These are also people pretending they knew me on campuses, who have been roles with some judges and prosecutors and mayors with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people associated with body dumping spots, who are also linked by the roles having been influenced to act behind my back, like fake ties, fake nature ties, just because they were in the and people I was never even around. As one's putting fake things in databases, doing little tricks, like a Debbie Gold, she's still a stranger to me. I met her one time. She was normal. Then, like a year or two later, she's running behind me, yelling things, increasingly these people with body dumping spots. And a Joe Aiello involved with the Aiello's kitchen, with a bunch of people with the fire department next to Trinity College, and with other spots next to Trinity College, including with the sexual groups, in other words, and with the intelligence community with them. They're using this not just to cover live aggressions, the way they're pretending. They're covering. They're knowing that they're directed to hide all kinds of things because they have a whole bunch of different countries involved with them at the same time. Again, and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and a whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital faked conversations with me, and like their involvements with people named Colello and Smith near me, who have the foreign and domestic military at Wethersfield Police Department, where they fake conversations with me, fake ties to me, at the police station when I was a kid and now as an adult. As one's involved increasingly, they have links with the people at the World Trade Center attack in New York City. As one's inter and intra-cities, Connecticut, inter and intra-campuses, Connecticut, identity theft, fraud, slanders, roles. See, that's one of the things that's manifest. We guys blame on other things other than ourselves, where our founders communicate to blame on the breaching method, like where and how it reassigned what Black people's whites of eyes communicate by nature. And by our founders. Our founders communicated for us not to hide the breaching method, how it reassigned what nature communicates with Black people's whites of eyes, and reassign roles with it. Otherwise, sensing for it. Anybody not doing that. When did they have integrity to speak? Please follow the mandate of the law for them. I've been asking Judge Napolitano because they use fake wire transcripts, fake police force, fake conversations with people. These are Marines involved with the Sammy the Bull, and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with overt criminal enterprise, private ones, and Diddy too, with a nonverbal threat to me. I took it as a threat or as a confirmation, a demonstration of his roles too. In March of 2011, these are also people involved with the World Trade Center attack on 9/11 with Wethersfield police phones families. And the same families involved with them are involved with multiple police departments and their families in Connecticut through time. And Whiting Forensics since I was a kid. Whiting Forensics and Facebook personally and professionally with courts and police forums. They have a Joshua Julian, also as one involved with the military and on off the news locations. Down off Two Rod Highway where it runs into Hangdog Lane. Confessions from strangers to make it look like they know me. As one's planting evidences, but people also confessed and recorded tied to body dumping spots, plural. And people from my grammar school increasingly with that. And state police and Whiting Forensics, increasing corruption with people on and off Two Rod Highway and its conjunctions like Hangdog Lane. And with that, and conjunctions to that, like Route 3, which is conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices. The state judicial branch offices and Wethersfield police also grouped their predicate acts and wire crimes with a Wethersfield pizza house, identity theft, fraud, slanders, with all kinds of evidences rackets with the state judicial branch offices and Wethersfield pizza house. And with the people on my street, planting evidences, roles with untimely death at Trinity College, even if it was made up, they had other federal evidences crimes there. Identity theft, fraud, slanders. In other words, get them on paper, please. Judge Napolitano, News Nation, please respond for these people with the FBI, Sammy the Bull, people with the Witness Protection Program. Bunch of people at Harvard Hospital involved with them all along Griswold Street. With male and female investigators tied to female judges involved with some sexual medical offenders of kids, including some black KKK, Confederate flag themed military involved next to Trinity College and next to Central Connecticut State University in Hartford and New Britain, with the ones on my street involved with wire crimes and falsified police reports. And the police forums and the courts won't get on, and they have a bunch of courts and their family members and prosecutors and victims advocates involved with the same house/S involved with the work criminal enterprise private ones and foreign and domestic military next to the state capitol, putting fake evidences, fake ties, fake nature ties between people, fake motivations for it. You need to get them on paper because these are increasingly people that had ties made before them at and next to each campus I went to, even ones I only went to for 1 year. And there were time uses of that they recorded too. Phenomena, a whole bunch of phenomena. A phenomena was recorded on Facebook, but they're changing and faking what's recorded. The FBI also has rules with Facebook with syntax regarding extremism, as their rules with people interstates and at the World Trade Center and the court next to it, and spots next to it besides the court, next to the World Trade Center in the attack, as the ones increasingly involved with the names, and as names involved with predicate acts on my street, with the police refusing to identify themselves, and retired police chiefs and their intimate ties involved with the house since before. Another one reportedly that was also the one past that. But in other words, so John Milo sought me out as a stranger in 1994 to make these confessions. These also increasingly people involved with those criminal enterprises since I was in grammar school, and that have been putting fake things in databases with names next to tied body dumping spots, like the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, like the body dumping spot of a serial killer, involved with the names next to it, involved with the military, involved with identity theft, frauds, a whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital putting fake transcripts in those databases, and delusions. Too long, psychiatry has had delusions interstates. They also have people with the name O'Connor that I never met. And I never had a personal conversation with Mr. O'Connor. He's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people who have roles with having conversation with him and behind my back. But they had roles with home break-ins in my area, and they said that they influenced people with Hartford Hospital with them, like a Marco Mancini and his family members and neighbors. Fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. I barely know Marco. I sat we never had a class with him in grammar school. Ron Adams is also one of the ones involved. He brought up the name Napolitano. He said he was at a wedding with him. So Fox News brought him up. Fox News is refusing to get the police on paper with themselves and with the courts. They forced the principal sex offender too. A bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News, like a Mike Pandolf, have roles with them in a pattern of their roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions and the courts and their lawyers and their family members putting the same sequence ships, fake ties, fake natures of ties, fake motivations for it roles. Like a Mike Pandolf, increasingly with his educators involved with Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center, involved with a whole bunch of people with New Britain's Central Connecticut State University, also all along Route 175 from New Britain to Connecticut. To Wethersfield, Connecticut, founding locations. Are people involved also with the corners along that way? Have been acting for others to take pictures, fake ties, make it look like fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And they make both sides, like they're pretending to fight some Corone brothers and a Justin Klavitskis and an Eric Jensen. Increasingly, they have roles of people with Parks and Recs and former mayors, like a Mayor Gold, planting evidences, fake ties, fake natures with ties to kids. His daughter and his brother involved with identity theft, fraud, standards, but a whole bunch of people make confessions tied to that. I even know them. In other words, I only know it's true to an extent. And I'm not going to go into details. I don't know them. They're trying to pretend other. I try to go into them. They make it look like I know them, like a Joe Aiello was doing at the side entrance to a park by timing where I was going to run roles. As with people that Ron Adams brought up, he's involved with confessions regarding Wethersfield Police and Rocky Hill Police. I don't know which ones he know. I forgot the name. He said Powers. I believe he said Officer Powers. There's a bunch of officers involved with the police chiefs in tribe and his family and their intimate ties, involved with some bakeries that are involved with some sexual and medical offenders and families next to the Hartford Hospital and people involved with New Britain hospitals. All kinds of, even the Eastern Narcotics Drugs Task Force involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, involved with drugs and medicines crimes with them. But they're also tactically delusions raw. The names of the people of the sciences, A through Z. So Ron Adams, he's one of the ones typing in comments right in here. I don't know why they don't keep the comments up, because they need to hide what his actual value is. FBI Director Robert Luskin is also recorded involved with names and places and people that Ron Adams brought up criminally, not dishonestly. One shouldn't have to what's Draven? Ron Adams keeps telling people I'm a doctor. Not for the written, trying to, no way. He was planting evidences with some police and some doctors that are fishing for means to cover up, to pretend they didn't know, because they've been changing and faking digital evidences. A bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have a Judge Killian involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids and digital crimes where they forced the principal upskirt nature. Also with a doctor Zeman and a Dr. Aziz, where they speaking fake things and delusions and records, involved with a whole bunch of like a Leahy family, with a whole bunch of people in my area involved with untimely deaths, intercities, and their roles with since I was a kid. Not even knowing me, pretending other, trying to make it like a couple times they had a picture taken near me, walking by, so they make it look like they know me. That's another thing that connects people to them. Are people who went out of their way to have it look like they were next to me. Something with the sides of the campuses, they're making people look. And with a Phil Colello, I never saw a Phil Colello on the inside of a campus in my life. He was pretending fake ties to fake natures of ties to me, where people don't even know their names on the sides of the campuses I went. And there are roles with the judicial branch office and the corrections office and with sexual and medical offenders of kids next to Harvard Hospital and campuses involved with that. Also with news, identity theft, fraud, standards. Increasingly, people with whiting forensics recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have a Phil Colello involved with the Bob Chase and some falsified police reports. They use crime methods, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They put arrays of falsified police reports with a charge and make confessions tied to it. And then they just put, there's nothing to respond to. If you respond to it, you're leaving out their confessions with the first falsified police report. Different arresting officer name, different sources, fake, all fake. Then God knows what they put in databases, but they're recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming they're putting fake things in their databases. They have the Sammy the Bull involved with sexual and medical offenders of elderly, veterans, and of little kids. And pretend, oh, but look, I just said I was against that. Get them on paper, one name in sequence with the Wethersfield Police. Now, please.